So it's going to be fun because I've been part of these sessions that Ariella's run as a participant, and now I'm up here and I get to do it with her, so it's going to be good. I've run some of these for the City of Adelaide in the last month or so, and that was only with 50 people. So this is a slight step up from that, obviously, but I think you said, Ariella, that you've done these with stadiums of people. So while everyone's finding a seat, I might just take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Ariella Helfgott. So, a former keynote speaker for Future Forum before. Dr. Ariella Helfgott is a Director of Strategic Foresight in the Department of Premier and Cabinet. She has 20 years of strategic foresight experience in a range of countries and contexts, and has only really come back to Australia in the last 2-3 years or so?
4 years now.
4 years ago. She has been a Director of Scenarios with the World Energy Council, a member of the Shell Scenario Team, a Senior Fellow in a number of universities, including Oxford and Adelaide, and a Strategic Analyst with the Australian Department of Defence. Will you join me in welcoming Ariella to the stage? So Ariella's just going to start by explaining in a bit more detail the significance of having a vision to get you guys going, because this is the interactive bit. So it's a bit looser, which I'm glad about, so that's good. All yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm here as the Director of Strategic Foresight because we're here to do foresight together. When we think about the future, there's broadly 4 kinds of questions that we can ask. One is, what do we think is probably going to happen, which is where all the trends and data, mathematical models, projections, all of those sorts of things come into it. The second type of question is, what do we want or not want to have happen? And that has nothing to do with data, because that's about values. And that's the type of question that we're going to address here today. There are 2 other important questions, which is what could possibly happen, whether we like it or not, and even if it's very unlikely, which is where exploratory scenarios come in. And the 4th question is, what are we going to do about it? We're going to do a little bit of that as well. We're going to start with the vision part today, because it's the single most important part of any strategy. It's what gives us our directionality and our handrails. It allows us to set strategic objectives associated with that vision. Without the vision, we can do a bunch of stuff. What's it going to add up to? Donella Meadows is famous for saying, if we don't know where we want to go, it makes little difference that we make great progress. Clearly articulated vision mobilises change broadly, because then everyone has that directionality and handrails. Everyone knows what to align with and what to get behind. Vision's also the hardest part of any foresight activity. People find it really hard to imagine positive futures that they really believe in. We find it hard to liberate ourselves from all of our current challenges, all the things that suck and are going wrong. But that's exactly what we need to do. We need to park all of that stuff and articulate, what does success look like, and what do we actually want? Because if we can't have the courage to articulate a future that we really want, we'll end up creating one that nobody wants because we were too scared to say it. South Australia's got many pieces of the puzzle here. Of all of the things that you've heard, we've got strengths in artificial intelligence, in automation, in advanced manufacturing. We've got the factory of the future. We've got Dino. We've got all of you.
Sure.
So, this is for us to do. This is our work today. So without any further ado, what I would like you to do to start, I'll guide you through the visioning process. The first part of this activity is to take 5 minutes in silence alone, and the reason for doing it alone is to avoid groupthink. You will get to build the shared vision as we go. I'd just like you to take 5 minutes alone using, there's a sheet of paper that's been prepared on your table, Dino. Mm-hmm. You can record your thoughts on that, or you can use a personal device, whatever you need to do, but just 5 minutes alone to think, based on everything you've heard and everything you know from your own life and work, what do you want the future of construction in South Australia to look like? What are the most important elements of your vision of that future? Go. Hello, everyone. I hope you've had a great table discussion. As I was walking around, I heard everything from really macro level, we need really good carbon accounting so that we can really track the benefits of what we're doing here, down to discussions about how you do design for assembly. Every level of the conversation, it was brilliant. So the next stage is where you need to input. The first part of it, we want each of you to just think about the discussion that you've just been part of and make your own vision statement for the future of construction in South Australia. And then enter that into Slido, and that will come up as a stream of consciousness on the screen here. We're going to do that for 5 minutes, all of you just entering your own vision statement. And then the next stage of it that we'll move on to 5 minutes later is, what are your top 5 vision elements? So things like collaborative, circularity. Yeah, with the vision elements, we're looking more for just a 1 or 2 words. But with the vision statement, you can write a whole sentence or 2 or 3 if you like.
So a lot of them are coming up as anonymous as well. So if that's the case, feel free to put your name at the end of the statement. Even say what you do, because that'll be interesting for us as we collect this. The more information we get from you, the better. So grab your phones out on Slido. There it is. So you guys are going to get to see this in real time. So you can scan the QR code or visit slido.com and enter in building futures at the prompt. And there should be 2 tabs, a tab on the left, a tab on the right. We want the tab on the right. And what's interesting is Slido's starting to pick up some of those common themes across the top as well, as you can see, which I didn't know it would do. So that's clever. Cheaper.
These are all really, really good. And they can all be synthesised into a big descriptive vision. Do you understand what that means?
No, I don't. I just know it's not being a punk. LFG.
There's 2 more minutes left.
You can go back and edit if you want. So it's good. It only took us 3 minutes before people started using emojis. Excellent. So did someone do ChatGPT? Is that what that was? Nick, you'll have to tell the story about your dishwasher at some stage. Again. You have to tell the story about your dishwasher at some stage.
We're in the last minute. These are so great.
Well, we have CLT being fabricated or made in South Australia now, which is great, and GLT down in the southeast.
Good work, everyone. Okay, that's my alarm. Fantastic. So we're on to the next activity. This is where we want your top 5 vision elements, so 1 word or 2 words. Some people entered that type of thing into the vision, but we're really looking for that in this part, and that's going to build us a word cloud where we'll be able to see the words that really are occurring the most frequently and really pop out as collectively the most important elements of the vision to everyone.
Yeah, so I imagine design, procurement, circularity, sustainability, digitisation, all those sorts of things. So this is going to start to populate.
Collaboration.
And it's always fun watching this because words get a run on and it gets very exciting to see who's going to win.
Dino, you're up there.
Sure.
It's an element of the vision.
You're following my name?
Dino's getting bigger.
No, we don't need that.
Affordable and affordability. When we process this, we'll obviously combine the words that are similar. Collaborative and collaboration. Dino, you're a big part of the future.
Dear God. Shannon, this is why we need to put a cap on how many times people could enter things.
Courage is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Inclusive is important too. Like, it was in my notes at the very, very top about the fact that this sector, well, in terms of the construction sector at least anyway, architecture is working towards gender parity.
Yeah.
Engineer following, and then construction behind that as well. But that's a huge nascent growth potential if we can find pathways for more women in construction as well. So
Absolutely.
watchdog.
That speaks to the accountability.
It's also very angry. It's in capitals. With authority.
Yeah, it's safe and quality coming in. Dino, you're huge. All right, one more minute. I'm curious. I don't.
So this is if the table partners want to get their name on the screen. Now's your chance. Get everyone at your table to. I'm actually surprised. Like, digital isn't really appearing very much. I know technology's there.
And I see regenerative and I see sustainable, but I don't see any mention of biodiversity or nature or ecology or anything like that. I see nature now, and that happened before I said it, so I didn't prompt it.
Manifested it.
Just 10 seconds.
BIM appears in the word cloud. And not that we're trying to bias anyone in terms of their thinking.
Okay. That was a very, very good start. Getting 300 people to do a vision simultaneously is quite something, so well done, everyone. Okay, so now I feel like we've been discussing what we've been observing as it's been.
Well, it looks like everyone's already getting into the conversation part.
Yeah, Ooh. The next part is to have an open discussion for the next 10 minutes or so on your table. Everyone is already doing that. Please continue to enjoy a table discussion.
Maybe a bit more curated though, right? So work your way around, let everyone sort of put forward their key things they've identified within their matrix.
It's good to have a sort of a table champion or a bit of a table facilitator to just make sure that it's inclusive and everyone gets a chance.
But over to you guys.
Okay, that's time. Now we get into the work part again, after the talking part. My secret weapon, if people keep talking, is hands on heads, but I don't think we need it. So what we're going to do is we're going back to Slido and we're going to sequentially work through each of these groups. And we're going to build a word cloud of what is it that we want each of these groups of actors to do. So the first one will be government, then industry, then supply chain. So, some examples. When we're doing what do we want government to do differently.
So we want to keep these sort of short, punchy responses too, right? For the word cloud. But, procurement, engagement, programs.
Pilots.
Yeah, pilots, those sorts of things. So, yeah. And hopefully with the audience we've got here, almost 300 people, we'll start to see again some patterns emerge so that we can actually use that as a conversation starter with government.
Yeah. Yes, all of this will be gathered and fed in to each of these groups. So we'll start with government and I'll set a 5-minute timer.
Mm-hmm. And we're already away.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting, we all talk about procurement, right? Like procurement, but what does that actually mean too, right? So for mine, procurement is actually designing procurement with the people that are delivering the outcomes, right?
Yep.
So for mine, procurement is about earlier engagement and a more collaborative approach to how we deliver the outcomes.
Yeah.
Which requires a shift from your typical sort of cascading quarantined risk. Starts with the brief, then the design team, then the builder, and then it just keeps going on and on. Instead, it's more of the models that we saw in the early discussions where it's all inclusive very, very early in the piece.
Yeah, the handrails on procurement could be relating to those types of collaborative platforms that you need to demonstrate that you have that type of thing in place. We could be incentivising collaboration with procurement.
Well, that's be interesting too, so in terms of the outcome at the end, so rather than it being like you will get X or Y, what about if the model is set up differently, maybe more like a PPP, like big public-private partnerships? Is there a more nimble version of what that could look like to actually pull a team together early and say, this is our problem or this is what we want to achieve, and actually empowering them to come up with what they believe the solution might be?
I'm sure there is. I don't feel like I should be the one suggesting that is coming from everyone in the room, but I think you want to incentivise the type of behaviour that you want to see.
Totally. So to that end, if you are incentivising everyone that the outcome at the end might have uplift in terms of profitability or whatever else it might be, that also starts to change the behaviours.
Yep. I also think you want to make sure that your procurement isn't blocking change because I have a story from a friend in Canada who a new innovation within the carbon sector and decarbonisation was proprietary technology for planting seeds and for tree planting, and the government procurement policy literally had included in it that whoever the provider was needed to dig a hole. So it naturally wiped out even that possibility of that innovation because it was that procurement itself was designed for old ways. So yeah, we want to be making sure that we're not blocking innovation.
And I'm not running for any kind of government anytime soon, so no. I have a secret deal with Sarah for what happens if I decide to do that. More red tape, not less. Surely that's wrong.
I don't know what to do with that either. There's actually still 2 minutes left in the 5 minutes for putting into this government one. Dino and I were even thinking, we could create a letter that said, "Dear Minister," and have all of these asks and send it to the appropriate ministers, because this is a voice of a large group of people.
Yeah, and again, what we said is that there isn't one minister either, right? That this sector touches so much of everything we do in our economy, right? So it could be Susan Close,
Yep.
it could be Nick Champion, it could be Blair Boyer on skills.
Yep.
There's a whole range of people.
Absolutely. We should send it to all of them.
Yep, sure. Carpet bomb. Yeah, and I think that long-term vision in electoral cycles becomes important. So what does an agency set up within government perhaps look like that actually transcends those cycles, that's aligned to the missions, right? Like a mission-focused department.
So I personally would say that the Strategic Foresight Unit would be a part of government that has a long-term mandate.
So has anything, like in terms of the missions themselves and the foresight work that you guys have been doing, has that existed previously within government in a structured way like it has been now?
The missions are new. For South Australia, not for the world, missions are a huge thing everywhere. In terms of strategic foresight, Estonia, Finland, the Emirates and Singapore have institutionalised foresight, and New South Wales has a Shaping Futures department, but South Australia is really a bit ahead of the curve in terms of taking a long-term perspective, and it was established by the previous government, but the current government certainly supports it.
Well, that's a welcome change.
Now's my alarm.
Cool.
Right, so we move on to what does industry need to change and do differently?
I think, collaboration, a bit more open source, not being so protective, I suppose, is something that I think there's this... Cool. I think the team are blocking that one now.
Diversity and inclusion.
More female leadership. That's got to be a typo. Dunno. That must have been a typo. And of course there is going to be answers or responses that transcend each of these different actors, as you said, right? I think fundamentally the AEC sector is largely at the mercy of the client.
Yep. When I see what's written here, we didn't talk about the first part of Adam Kahane's stretch collaboration approach, but the first step is actually, we might all have different interests and agendas and ideas and things that we're trying to pursue, but there's a situation and we're all in it together. So beginning from that acknowledgement that we are all in this together, and that certainly seems to be the case for industry.
I think training and education is pretty fundamental too, right? And not just the generation coming through, but how do you reskill, retool people as we move to this more digitised future within our sector? What does that mean for the incumbent who have been doing things a certain way for a really sustained period of time? I think we've seen that in architecture and engineering, that you've gone from drawing to 2D, now to 3D and whatever else comes next in terms of parametric and AI design and stuff. But yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Well, I think the incumbents are going to need support and to be included as well and taken along on that journey. Because
I think that's the thing as well, maybe, the world is getting more and more complex too, right? And I think the way to overcome this complexity is going to be about our ability to work together, because you can't have one source holding and controlling the management of all that complexity.
No.
Which is where a platform comes into it. Where are you, Duncan? Yep.
I also think that the incumbents who've been doing things for a long time might have some useful skills to bring to the table as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And I think one thing I want to stress too is that the people in this room, we do have a great deal of influence over what all of these outcomes are. So by actually working together more and raising our voice and the value of our voice, we can actually start to dictate terms a little bit better about what we want to see too, right?
Yeah. Well, the people in this room, as far as I understand, this is industry in South Australia.
Did anyone put in the government one for it to pay on time? Don't know. We'll have to go back and look at that.
We've only got one more minute.
Pretty close, I reckon.
Yep, well, there's only 4 people left typing, so we can get ready to get on to the next one, which is about the supply chain. So how does the supply chain need to change and what needs to be done differently? Do you have some examples for supply chain?
I think there's some really interesting examples, and I think this is where the digitisation piece becomes really important in circularity. I think as a design practice, we're craving suppliers who make products that tell them where they're sourced, give us all the information, empower us to use their products. So I think that's a really important part of what the supply chain can be doing, is actually getting on board with this need. Yeah, sure.
I agree. It was just very distracting to see you in the centre there.
And digitisation is going to help with the capacity to track
and I think
these materials too, right? So that we can actually build out the circularity piece.
And when everything is digitised, in terms of foresight about AI, what I'm hearing about AI is that at the moment, we're working with generative AI where you ask a question and you get a response. But that under development already is AI that can do a chain of things, so that it can be asked a question, generate a response, call someone, give them that response, collect information, do the next step and the next step. And that's being developed specifically with the idea of really, really streamlining supply chains and logistics and that type of thing. So I think when things are digitised, then there are opportunities for all those types of changes in the future.
Well, AI will be able to access that information far quicker, right? That's the point.
It has to be digitised for AI to work with it, yeah. I'm seeing Duncan nodding, which is making me feel better.
Yeah, local is important too. I mean, that's a government thing too, right? That, building a stronger economy is finding ways to use more local content.
Yep.
It's a balancing act too, though, right? So, yeah, how do you build capacity so it's competitive? That whole chestnut.
Well, one of the things that could be possible is a green, circular, local marketplace for procurement. Mm-hmm. So a link between that and the previous one about government. Mm-hmm. There's my alarm. There's still 14 people typing. This is a big one. Let's give you an extra minute. 6. Being able to reuse materials and cradle-to-cradle design to make that possible in the first place. Mm-hmm. That seems like a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And John, what are you doing? You're removing gas products? Yes? We are giving away a Weber-Q. Maybe an electric barbecue next time. It's ready for hydrogen.
I'd love a hydrogen barbecue. Is that my gift?
Do you know what the masterstroke would be if somehow a hydrogen gas could burn green? That's like a marketer's dream, I reckon.
I'm sure someone could make that happen.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. And there's the alarm. So the next one is research and innovation. And as we said before, think about an entire ecosystem of research and innovation and how that translates into impact.
So that also includes education, training, skills, all those sorts of things.
Yep. Can Ben
Which Ben?
raise their hand? I've got to meet you. This is funny, but at the same time, I think champions have a really, really important role to play. When I think about what Ben and Dino obviously do in terms of joining dots and bringing things together for change, it's really important. It's something that we can all do more of.
From a material innovation perspective, Adam's in the room from Vicura, so developing hemp-based products, hempcrete and hemp wall linings and things like that.
How do those broader impacts? How does the smart, sustainable, and inclusive broader social and environmental impacts show up in your work and how you measure your success?
Dave, I like that. Challenge the competition. Take a step out and say there is a different way of doing it, but also taking your competition on that journey and empowering them with that knowledge as well. Welcome back, Ed. I assume that was you. Where are you, mate? Understand Industry 4.0. Yep.
When it comes to this part and you have to make your own pledge, you just get to see how much harder it is to make that commitment compared to telling other people to change. But actually, everything changes when we all change. But the problem with system change is it's really easy to think that all the answers lie in one part of the system, but everyone is locked in by the same systemic conditions. And it's only, and also everyone wants to be that last snowflake that breaks the branch, but it took everyone's contribution of all the snowflakes to break the branch. Yeah, be kind.
And so also we're going to wing it a little bit in a second as well, because we're kind of running ahead of time, so we're behind, but you guys are being so efficient that we're ahead of time. So I'm going to put someone on the spot in a second and ask them to tell us what their pledge is. And then if there's anyone in particular that really feels compelled to tell us what their pledge is and any other commentary, we'll open that opportunity up. But I'm actually going to go to you, Duncan. Sorry, bud.
And we've got Sam and Reese
helping us out with the microphone.
Out with roving microphones.
Yep.
Sam, do you want to come give Duncan one?
That's fine. One's fine.
Okay. This is Sam, everyone. He has to work with me every day.
Oh yeah, here we are. You got a knife that I can cut my
Wrists?
No, making the pledge in blood.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. Make it count. My pledge probably, I think, having come across to Adelaide from Melbourne, thinking on the journey over, and we have a postdoctoral researcher who did a PhD at the University of South Australia. I think it's pretty exciting seeing the developments happening in and around Adelaide. So, my pledge would be to support those developments through R&D in collaboration. Had a meeting this morning with some researchers from UniSA. Spoke about collaboration in that regards on an academic front. But a core piece of our research is always the industry collaboration. So, looking to make connections in and around the city so that we can overcome those interstate rivalries, interstate competition. I think that's a barrier that needs to be broken down, because Australia at the end of the day is a small country with some big issues, and they're best solved together.
Easy. Is there anyone else that feels really compelled to say something?
So we've got the time now to just open up for any comments or reflections that you might like to share with everyone. Sam's got the microphone. Just pop your hand up if you've got any reflections or comments.
Damien or Lance, anything that you want to add, building on what you've heard today?
Yeah, I think, for Lance and I, Lance is an Adelaide local, and it was just nice to be here. We started the whole roadmap journey in South Australia, in Adelaide, in November last year. We've launched it here today outside of just the Prefab Oz membership, so it's great to be able to do that. And at Prefab Oz, also having you here as our state champion, coming and doing more events in Adelaide, bringing people together, this is what we try to do. So I think just really congratulations to you and the team. You pulled off an excellent event, and we're going to bring a lot more people here and do more things in Adelaide because we see there's significant opportunity.
Absolutely. Anyone else? It's okay if you don't, but Lance, if you know.
I'll just say this very quickly. My pledge is to continue and increase my involvement in advocating for this sector, and I think Damien and I were at pains to make connections between the future of this sector and critically important things to the future of Australian society in terms of the economy, the environment, social inclusion, and all the rest of it. And I think that we need to really regard this as part of a broader mission, and that I'll bring that to the continued advocacy that Damien and I are doing.
Beautiful. Okay. That's fine. We can all have an early minute. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Head across the road. So, thank you. First thing. Thanks, Ariella, and we'll go through the thanks to everyone. So, we'll switch the slide. Thank you, guys. So, again, thank you to our event partner, Shape. Thank you to Rawson's, of course, our networking partner, who is taking care of the festivities to follow afterwards. Do put your business card in the pink bowl, I believe, on the way out. Thank you to all the partners as well. I think that's been the key thing. I was talking about it with someone that having all of you as businesses bring people has made, our life a lot easier, but it's actually broadened the reach of the discussion, which is really important. So thank you all so very much. Thank you to the speakers, to Duncan, Damien, Lance, and Ariella for hanging out with me up here. It's kind of the longest we've hung out for a while together, so that's been good fun. Thank you to my team. Maria, you've delivered your first Future Forum. Well done, just the biggest one we've ever done. Tomo, Sarah Thompson, who's been invoicing up the back at the same time, and Shannon, who's been the whiz on all the AV stuff. So thank you to all of them. Thank you for you all for coming along and being part of it. Absolutely do not take for granted that 3 hours in your day at this time of year is a big investment, so hopefully you feel that it has been absolutely worth it. So from here, we want you to stay connected, so futureforum.com.au. We will be disseminating a report that comes out of this, and I personally will continue to advise or communicate with everyone about what's coming out of the work with DPC, and we'll open that opportunity up for more people to come into that and participate as I sort of wedge my way further into that. Of course, afterwards, once we finish up here, head across the road safely to Electra House, drinks and food for everyone, and that's where the magic starts to happen. But I do have the microphone, and so I was going to take that opportunity to talk a little bit more about, not so much a pledge, but kind of some food for thought. So bear with me. So hopefully you gather from today that we are facing a moment. It's a moment that's created by a convergence of forces, some of our making, and some that are beyond our control. Forces that will demand us, and are demanding us right now, to rethink the systems that shape our world and our state. Within that emerging paradigm, there is profound opportunity, and I hope that you'll take hope from today that there are 300 other people that want to be part of what that looks like. So it's a chance to shape the future that we want. But whatever our response may be, there's two things I really want you to take away. That it will permeate through the lives of future generations, and change is the only true constant. So, what do we do? Inertia can't be the answer. Business as usual, as we've learnt today, will deliver the same outcomes as the world passes us by. But change is hard, right? We can tell everyone else to change, but how do we change ourselves? And then systematic change, that's a whole other thing. So what I ask of you is, if you ever think that you've reached your capacity to meet a challenge like the one we face today, you all have to stop and look back, reflect on your entire life and your career to date, and how much you have progressed as individuals, and how much you have all changed. Change is not that difficult. Know in that moment that your capacity for change and our collective capacity for change is boundless. So this is what I ask of you as you leave this place today, having heard from our speakers, having heard from each other. When you find yourself contemplating a choice in the coming days, months, or years, in that moment, confronted by the potential of discomfort or fear that comes with the unfamiliar, don't do what is easy. Do what is right. Don't be afraid to do what is hard. Make space for new ideas. Find ways to work together to grow our collective capacity to transform our state for the better. Stand up and lead. Demand better of yourself and each other. I promise you it will be worth it. Thank you all.